Hello and welcome to episode 80
80.
of the Star Bros podcast. I am so grateful for my bro host, Ben Skywalker.
I'm grateful for my bro Jose Solo. Wow,
You
that's
di-
an interesting way to start with some
you did
gratitude.
you didn't have to say that, but I'm glad that you did.
Well, I felt forced to. If I didn't say it, then it would have been more noticeable than if I did say it.
But do you mean it?
Always.
Oh, that's really nice of you, dude.
Do
But
you?
of course. But
Oh, let's
it,
just end this episode right here. This is good.
yeah, that was really nice.
Positive vibes.
Good vibes. Hey, it was just Life Day, and in the US at least, Thanksgiving is coming up. Canada already had their Thanksgiving back in October, but for us, it's just around the corner. So we're right in the middle of a time of gratitude and reflection. And that's one of the themes that we're going to be covering tonight on our Thank the Makers episode, where, hey, we've talked a lot about characters, plot lines, stories, but there's people behind all these things. And we're going to be talking about some of our favorites. But before
That's
we
right.
do,
Yeah.
thank you for confirming. Before we do,
I was like, do you want me to say anything to that? No? Okay.
No.
What? Keep going. You're on a roll.
But before we do, I just want to see how you're doing, because that's what bros do. We check in on our bros.
True. I am tired.
Okay. I'm well too. Let's talk Star Wars. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm just like, it's physical, but it's also just like mental too. It's just a busy time of year.
Yeah.
As you know, we're in my family, we are in the gauntlet of birthdays, which are all within a month from each other.
Mm-hmm.
All my kids and myself. And we just
happy belated birthday. I still have your gift.
That was not a ploy to get you to say happy birthday, but
okay. Well, happy birthday. I have your gift. I can't wait to give it to you. I don't know when I'm going to give it to you. When am I going to give it to you?
I think we're seeing each other tomorrow.
Are we?
I thought we were trying to see each other tomorrow. If not, then I can reschedule. It's cool.
Yeah, tomorrow, I'm being dead serious. Tomorrow does not work for me.
Okay. Here we go, trying to figure out our plans on the air. Nice.
Oh, do you want to know what it is, though?
If you want to tell me, it's okay.
I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, tell me.
Are you serious? I don't want to spoil it, but I want you to know. Okay,
tell everybody.
I ran this past your wife.
Oh gosh.
So I know that you don't have it.
And that was the reason. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Star Wars related?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you see behind me right now?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Star Wars stuff. I'm running out of space. I'm just kidding.
So for people who don't know, Ben has been working on his home theater for a little while.
It's true.
And has an amazing TV, and you painted, and you've got that cool curtain hanging up. And one of my favorite things that I've ever seen in a home theater is you have like a concession stand. You have a snack bar with a mini fridge, and you got goobers for me. Bless your heart. My favorite movie candy, goobers.
I thought you were going to call me a goober or something because I got you goobers.
Well, you're a little bit of a goober, and so am I. That's okay. We can embrace our gooberness.
Well, you're a starburst. That doesn't work.
I'll take it. Been called worse for sure, but I got you an R2D2 popcorn maker.
No way.
That's
really cool.
It's a cool popcorn maker. He so the top of his, I'm like falling out of my chair. The top of his head comes off, and it's the bowl.
Oh, even better.
And the popcorn, it looks like he's throwing up the popcorn.
like in Empire when he's coming out of the swamp and he's just like spewing all the
but it's
sludge.
Delicious popcorn
with butter, not sludge.
With butter. Yeah,
which same thing.
Yeah, so I can't wait to give you that. I think that'll be a nice addition to your home theater.
Well, thank you. I appreciate.
You're welcome.
That will be a nice addition because
you're welcome.
We do have a popcorn maker down there. It's like bless you.
Thank you.
It's a good one. It's one of those, it's similar, I'm gonna guess, like you put the kernels in and all that stuff. But I was like, I need like a Star Wars themed one or a movie themed one in general. So this is perfect.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're welcome. I can't wait to give it to you. So now you can move the other popcorn maker like to your nightstand or something. So
yeah, that's a good place for it. Yes.
the good place.
I don't usually eat that much popcorn, but when I do, it's at 2 in the morning.
I love stuff like that. I love when people have, like, I just always think about the episode of The Office when Michael Scott had the George Foreman grill in his bed so that he could wake up to the smell of bacon.
Bacon.
Like,
yeah.
I love, I don't love popcorn. I really enjoy it, but I love the smell of popcorn. Like when I walk in a movie theater and you smell that, I'm just like, I'm immediately in that right headspace to enjoy something.
But not the popcorn.
Yeah, I'll enjoy the popcorn. I just can't do like a whole giant bucket of it. Like, it's just,
I mean, it's a ruse. You get the popcorn and then you have to get the soda because you're going to be eating all this popcorn and getting
so
like that
salty.
dry mouth and salt. Yeah, exactly. And so like it's just a ploy to get you to buy a soda too.
That's the
and
business
you got to get
model.
the big sizes.
That's the business model, isn't it?
It is.
Everything plays off of each other.
Popcorn, you got to get the $5 soda with it.
And then you're like, nah, I want something sweet, or maybe I can, maybe some Sour Patch Kids. I don't know.
While I'm at it, exactly.
And then there's this whole thing of people are like, oh, you what you do is you take the sweet candy that you get and you pour it into the popcorn. At least this is what happens in America for any of our friends outside the country.
And then in Canada, they put maple syrup on it.
Do they?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm making that up.
I was going to say, I was picturing like, is it like all Buddy the Elf in Canada, just putting syrup on all the different food?
Yeah,
spaghetti
exactly
with maple syrup.
That's exactly it.
That sounds delicious.
Candy corn, and syrup. Yeah. What was the candy canes? Anyway,
all the food groups.
Oh, we're getting right into the season. This is a perfect time to be talking about all these fun things. But before we get to that part of the season, we got to go through Thanksgiving first, and that's probably the better part. You asked me how I'm doing. How are you doing?
I am well. There's something else I'm grateful for tonight. In addition to our friendship and our bro host-ship.
Stop it.
So you ever sell anything on Facebook Marketplace?
Me, no, but
no?
My wife, yes.
Oh, okay. So it's weird. Like, some people
I just throw my stuff away.
Well, some stuff, like, I'm surprised what people will buy. And people can be flaky on Facebook Marketplace because you can hit one button, and it sends me a message and says, is this still available? And so you could just go through a whole bunch of crap on Facebook Marketplace and just send that message to 50 people and then never respond or not show up or like whatever.
Yeah.
My favorite is arguing about price. And then you say, oh, okay, fine, $20. And then they ghost you. And it's like, why'd you spend the time arguing with me? But anyway, we sold our bed frame.
Okay.
And
I think we sold our bedroom furniture on Marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the girl comes and picks it up.
Way less than what we paid for it. I'll just say that too.
Yeah.
Craigslist was better when I bought it there.
Craigslist can be good. So the girl comes and picks it up after dark because it gets dark here at like 4:00 now. And
boo.
It doesn't fit in her car. The headboard doesn't fit. So she was like, I'm going to bring help. She didn't really bring help.
She got a guy to kind of stand out the door and go, yeah, that's not going to get fit too. Is that what you got?
No, it was a young girl and her mom was there with her baby sister. And so like the mom was like taking care of the baby sister. So anyway, we're like, well, it'll fit on the roof. And she's like, well, I don't have any rope. So I go in the garage and I'm digging around. And I find this rope that's like almost like decorative rope. Like, I don't know if this is good for tying something to like a cheapo roof rack. Like, I don't know if that's really going to work. Anyway, long story short, we're out there in the cold, in the dark. I tie it up. First time I've ever tied anything to a roof rack. And I ask her, like, how far are you going? Because I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
And she said, it's about 30 minutes away. So I'm like,
my gosh.
Crap. And I don't say crap out loud. What I actually said out loud was, you should be good. You should be good.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah. All the best to you. And so Jess is out there and she's like, can you please text us when you get home? Because she's also not entirely confident in how I've tied it up to the roof. But like 45 minutes later, we get a message. Got home safe. Thank you so much for the bed.
It worked.
It worked.
You've got a new career in not tying.
She actually said something too. The girl was like, well, you could be a mover. No, thanks. Because I worried for 45 minutes straight about whether or not you got there in one piece or if the headboard flew off and hit a car behind you because they had to go on the highway to get.
That's when you take the back roads anyway.
That's when you should take the back roads. But
yes,
I'm not going to tell them how to get home.
But the back roads in Pennsylvania are not much better. They're very windy.
There are deer. There are possum. There are skunks.
Yes.
There are Amish persons.
Yes.
There are rednecks.
It's everything.
Crocodiles?
No.
But all the other ones are real. Anyway, she got home safe. And for that, I'm really grateful. Because
why did you tell the story? I'm trying to figure out
it's
now.
A gratitude story. I was genuinely really relieved.
Oh, okay.
When I heard that she got home safe and that the bed stayed on the roof. She said her brother was going to be there to help her like carry everything upstairs to her apartment, which made me feel good. So I was worried about that. And I'm grateful that she got a new bed and that she got it there in one piece. Do you want to talk about Star Wars?
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, we probably should.
I mean, that's a good story too. I'm glad that you were able to hopefully get your money's worth for that, but you really had to work for it. Make sure you're out there, stress for her sake. No, let's talk about Star Wars. In this episode, we want to talk about the makers of Star Wars a bit. Hence the title, Thank the Makers, which all right, if I have to explain that to you, then you haven't seen Star Wars. But we figured we would take from that line and say, okay, there are a lot of people, like you said, behind the scenes that are making Star Wars, and some that we're going to talk about that everybody knows, and then some that maybe some don't. I mean, I think if you're really into this, then you probably know a couple of these names or have heard them before. But I think each of us, you and I, what we've done, we've each taken two different people that we think deserve a little bit of recognition and gratitude, and talk about them a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of cap off with the one and only George Lucas and thanking him. But there's so many people. It's really hard to choose. Like, how do you choose from all the people? You can go from the costume designer all the way down to the sound technician before you even get to the directors and the creators and the writers and stuff. Like, it's a ton of people. But we've whittled it down, at least for this conversation, to two each.
Yeah. And what have you, speaking of ton of people, what do you and I do every time we go see a Star Wars movie in the theater? Which I hope we get to do about 100 more times in our lifetime.
I hope so too. At this pace, I would be happy. Just, I don't know. We've only gotten 11 movies in theaters after 40 years. So we're on pace for 11 more in my lifetime, maybe.
I'm hoping to be around for at least 40 more years. So I'll take 11 more. That's great.
I'll take 11. But yeah, we always watch the credits, to your point.
We watch the whole credits.
And we read out every single name. No, we don't. But we watch them.
we do point out some names. We point out some like jobs where it's like, well, I wonder what like the animal handler did. Like what animals were in this?
What does grip boy mean again?
Yeah. What is the best boy gripping? Like what
assistant? Assistant to
Miss So and So's driver. Yeah. Like it takes an army of people to make this stuff. And similarly with the comic book. So I'll be talking about a comic book writer today. Well, somebody who's primarily known as a comic book writer.
Yes.
If you read the credits of a comic book, the people who are doing the lettering, the inking, the artwork, the color, the storyboarding, like there's a bunch of different work that goes into creating Star Wars stories for us to be able to sit back and eat goobers and eat popcorn and consume it.
Popcorn with M&Ms and syrup on it.
With maple syrup. What do they call that? I think they call that Saskatchewan corn.
Oh, right? Really? I like that. I mean, they probably do grow a lot of corn there, so it would work.
I just made that up. But do they grow corn there?
I mean, that's like a huge agricultural province.
Where's the oil? Alberta?
Yeah, where Edmonton is.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not okay. All right. That makes
I mean,
sense.
probably other places in Alberta too, not just Edmonton, but yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. We're
How
talking
about
about
you go
consuming.
first?
Okay.
You go first. We're not
Thank you.
consuming
What a nice gentle segue. Thank you.
drenched popcorn, sugar drenched popcorn. We're gonna talk about who? Who are we gonna talk about first? You tell me.
Jean Favreau.
Jean Favreau.
Yeah.
Ah, d'accord.
What do you know of his work outside of Star Wars?
Elf.
Yes.
We were just talking about that one. He did Elf.
Good one.
Iron Man. All the
Yeah.
Iron Men.
Marvel.
He was in Marvel. Yep. What else? There's probably other stuff in there too, but those are the top two that come to mind.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Jean Favreau.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to do like a little bit of his biography. Feel free to jump in whenever. I want to do a little bit of his timeline of how he kind of finds his way to Star Wars. Here's what I couldn't find. I couldn't find his like Star Wars origin story. So if you know it, or if you dear listeners happen to know it, let us know. It just he
Wasn't it something? I thought he was. I could be completely getting this story wrong, but I thought he was like an usher in the theaters.
Oh,
And
really?
you would sneak in while the theater was playing and
No way.
watch whatever the movies was. I think that might have been his introduction to Star Wars.
Oh, I love that.
Could be
Okay.
mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure it had something to do with being an usher, and that's like how he fell in love with the movie industry.
That's so cool. I love that. Because I did find my other guys like Star Wars fandom origin story, which is what I'm talking about specifically. Like, a lot of people who get to work on these movies were fans for a long time when they were kids or whatever. And I always like to hear like, what was the first thing that got you? Like, what was the first thing that sort of like grabbed your attention and you realized like, I really enjoy this stuff and I could kind of go down the rabbit hole. So thanks for filling in that particular blank for me. But
Hopefully
okay,
I'm right.
yeah, I let's go with that. Do you know where Jon Favreau was born?
California.
New York City. He's an East Coast guy.
Other side. Okay.
Yeah, he was born in Flushing, Queens. Grew up in Flushing, Queens, which is famous for, do you know?
Toilet handles?
US Open tennis. Close.
Okay. Close.
Didn't know this about him, but only child, lost his mother when he was very young.
Oh, wow.
Went to Bronx Science, which is one of the best public schools in the country.
Okay.
And you have to test into it. So you don't just get to pick which public schools you go to necessarily in New York City, but you take these aptitude tests, and depending on where you score, where you rank against your peers, you pick which schools you want to go to. And it's still this way to this day. So he was born in the 60s, but it's still this way. And you say, this is my first choice school, my second choice, whatever. And he got into Bronx Science, which is also where Neil deGrasse Tyson went. One of the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
And others, I'm sure.
Others.
But went to Bronx Science. Then he went to Queens College, which I believe is where one of our mutual friends went. We could talk about that separately, but didn't finish.
Okay. What is it with successful people and dropping out of school?
I don't know. Maybe that's what I did.
A lot of them do. I know. I should have just failed. Oh wait, I did.
I'm looking at this diploma on my wall, and I'm just like, am I dumb? But
I just followed the man.
Yeah. Do you know what his nickname was in college?
Frenchie? For having a French name? I don't know.
That's really insensitive. Johnny Hack.
How is this insensitive?
I'm just messing with you.
It probably is, and I'm not realizing it.
No, it's okay. Johnny Hack. You know why? Because he was really good at hacky sack, and that's what he was known for in college.
He's like, I don't know. He was
like a cool computer hacker.
Yeah.
No, he was doing the hacky sack. Can you picture that? You imagine walking through New York City and like
I played the hacky sack in high school. Him and I could have been
me
buds.
too. I loved. I still have a couple.
Me too. Anyway,
what was your move? Could you do the jester?
I don't remember any of the names. I would just try new things. What was the jester?
It's where hacky sack goes up in the air. On its way down, you swing one of your legs over it.
Oh, I did this. Yes.
and then you kick it with your other foot.
Yes, I did that one. I wasn't always good at it, but I did it.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But
you know what my favorite was?
What?
It was really hard, but I would
let it land on the back of your neck with your arms out and then flip it back up.
I've done that one. Yeah. No. All right. This will be my last tangent. I would get under it and I would actually cradle it so it would land in between my knees. And then I would jump up in the air and catch it between my feet. And then I would throw it to my next partner, but just like with both my feet. It was my own move.
What did you call it?
The Ben?
The Ben.
I don't remember. It's been over 20 years, man.
Bend me the hacky sack.
I just called it cool. That was all.
I saw a
show off.
An outtake, the show off. I saw an outtake reel from Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis, and he was talking to Matthew McConaughey.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something like, since you're like sitting in here with me all day, are you sad that there are sacks out there not being hacky? So I butchered that, but it was something because he looks like a hacky sack guy. But anyway,
he totally does.
Drops out of college. I don't know what's going on in this period in his life, but he actually ends up going back. Doesn't even finish his semester. He goes to work at Bear Stearns.
Oh, the poor soul.
And then says, forget this. Moves to Chicago because Chicago was like the main hub. It was just the center of the universe for a while if you wanted to get into improv comedy, which is what he wanted to do.
Okay.
He wanted to break into comedy. He goes to Chicago in 1988 trying to make it as a comic.
Mm-hmm.
In 1992, he lands a role in one of my all-time favorite movies, Rudy.
Okay.
Did you ever see Rudy?
It's been a while. Maybe?
It's Sean Astin.
Yes.
Is pre-Samwise Gamgee trying to make it onto the Notre Dame football team based on a true story.
Yeah.
Of a man who is, I believe, banned for life from the securities industry because of something he ended up doing later. But he made the Notre Dame football team. So he lands the role of D-Bob, who's like the nerdy guy who goes to Rudy for help because he's scared to talk to girls. Sort of like a little bit of a comedy relief character. A year later, he's in another one of my favorite movies, PCU, which is not good for kids, but very funny. And then it's like, yeah, this is going pretty well. A couple years later, goes out to Los Angeles and makes his own movie, which he's always wanted to do. And that movie I've never seen, but I've heard is great. And it's called Swingers. But I've been to the coffee shop it's a diner in West Hollywood called Swingers, which was sort of like home base, the impetus for the story and so on. So he starts to get into the biz and he starts like being a little bit behind the camera, being a little bit in front of the camera. As far as I could tell, his first foray into Star Wars was in the Clone Wars, the animated series.
Yeah, didn't he do a voice?
He did a voice for a Death Watch member of Vizsla. And a role that he kind of reprises a little bit in The Mandalorian. But
wait, is Paz Vizsla?
The thing I read was it had a different Vizsla name.
Okay, I got to double check which one it was, but I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but I didn't know this. He was in the running for the director for The Force Awakens. Because at that point, he was doing big movies.
Right. Like, I mean, he had done Iron Man and Elf and all those things by that time. Yeah.
So like Iron Man, blockbuster movie, Elf. I think a lot of people consider that an all-time classic. So
pre-Vizsla. It was pre-Vizsla.
Pre-Vizsla. Right.
That's right.
He was pre and then he was Paz.
But he did do Paz Vizsla's voice too.
He did it in one season of The Mandalorian.
Okay.
So like this most recent one, which was Paz's best work
as
a hero, in the series. It's somebody else actually doing the voice.
Okay.
Ron Favreau.
Just keep going.
Yeah. I feel bad for that actor because he did such a good job, and I don't know. I just called him Ron Favreau. But anyway, so he doesn't get the Force Awakens, but in 2018, it's announced that this Jean Favreau character is going to be at the helm of the Mandoverse. So he's developing this series, live action series for Disney Plus that takes place in the Star Wars universe. This was a mind-blowing concept at the time. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Because we'd gotten animated TV shows, but we didn't get a live action show until The Mandalorian.
Right.
You agree?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. That same year, he voices Rio Durant in Solo.
Yeah. I remember that one.
And then he goes off, he forms what's called Gollum Productions, which is one of the producers of Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, The Mandalorian.
Is that one his? I've seen that one is credited on a bunch of the.
That's him. That's him.
That's his studio. That's his production.
Yes.
Studio, whatever it's called. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Production company.
Yep. And what's the thing that they film in? The vessel?
The wait, now you got me confused. Do you mean the
No, the vessel is a monument in New York City. It's a building in New York City.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the dome. What is it called?
The Space Cube.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
just blanking on it. Keep going.
The OLED Cheerio.
That's a good thing to call it. I like that. Very descriptive.
So
remember T-Rex tadpole?
Yes, I do. Do you want to tell the listeners what the T-Rex tadpole was?
No, just go back and listen to whatever episode that was.
Good luck finding it. 80 episodes.
I know. Whatever one that was. That was when we were talking about and Pimple Squid was another one. It was like all these funny names for some of the animals in Star Wars because we always took from like I don't remember where I saw it, but it was like
the kangaroo is the Australian pocket dog. Like that.
Perfect example. Yeah, it was like how would we do that in Star Wars? And so we called the T-Rex tadpole, whatever that was. Anyway, I'm tired. Like I said, I'm forgetting things.
That's the thing that they rode around on in the first season of the Blurg. Yes, T-Rex tadpole.
Yeah.
So anyway, at this point, Favreau is pretty steeped in the Star Wars universe. He specifically said that he really liked the idea of forming his own production company because, and I think there's a big George Lucas intersection here. He loved the idea of taking technology and pushing it to the limit to tell stories.
Which he did in The Volume.
The Volume.
I just remembered it.
I like OLED Cheerio.
I like that more.
Anyway, do you know what he gave credit to for kind of getting him started in storytelling and building his confidence as a storyteller?
What's that?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, really?
Jean Favreau. Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, I see that.
I've heard.
Now I wish that he would have directed the movie, but it was great how it was.
It was an excellent movie. Do you know who else has said that before? Stephen Colbert. He said he gives a lot of credit to Dungeons and Dragons for helping him build his imagination, his improv skill, his storytelling ability. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally
pretty cool,
see that.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's all I got for you for Jean Favreau. What has he got for us? Tough to say.
I mean, his style though. The thing that's interesting about Favreau is his style really is he has his own signature, right? You know it when you see it. It's comedic, right? He always makes sure to have some comedy in it. He's got that. It's the New York style. Like you can kind of see it come out. You know, it's got a little bit of that kind of crazy New York atmosphere feel to it. But I think what it is just I can't call it anything else but like popcorn flick, and I don't mean that. It sounds derogatory in a way, but
I don't think so.
Everything he does, everything he touches is just entertaining. And it's not meant to be like the deepest thing in the world. You're just supposed to walk away from it feeling entertained.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that a bit because
that's
sometimes
okay.
when you try to go really deep or really grandiose, like you miss the mark a bit.
I can feel it when it's like too forced, and there have been some movies that are considered classics now where I'm just like, man, I felt like they're really forcing that. Um,
Yeah.
like one of them is Gladiator. Like I
Mm.
always watch that and I'm like, they're trying so hard to make an epic movie. I feel like,
Yeah, but like not everything has to be. I mean, Iron Man was so great because it was grounded and it was real and it was raw and it was just and it was funny and it was had
I
every
think
element to it.
think of how beloved that character made Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, it brought him back from
It brought him
almost
back from the brink.
right, exactly. I was gonna say Hollywood purgatory.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean everything he does. So like the Mandalorian, it isn't deep, but it's entertaining, and that's what people love about it.
It
Like
has some deep moments. It has some
it
moments you can
does.
interpret as being deep.
Yes, yeah. I'm not saying like it's point being is like it's not one of those things that you have to invest in, like
Oh yeah, yeah.
you're gonna walk away like emotionally torn and tattered, but you're gonna walk away having laughed, having had a range of emotions, but you're gonna enjoy it. Most
Yeah.
importantly, you're gonna enjoy it. It's almost a guarantee from Favreau. I think it could get like you will have
Totally.
fun watching this in the 30 minutes that you give me.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where Favreau stands with the Marvel universe. I don't know if there's anything planned there.
I think he's kind of moved on.
I think so too. I don't know if he's moved on from Star Wars. I could see him doing
No.
more Star Wars. And I will thank that particular maker and say I'm really grateful for the Star Wars he's made because I've really enjoyed Mando. I've really enjoyed Ahsoka. And I've really enjoyed Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I agree. Again, they're all enjoyable. That's the thing.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
almost guaranteed at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Who do you
yep.
got?
I was just about to say, let me move on to my guy, one of my guys, who is Doug Chiang. Doug Chiang is not a name that, again, the more casual fan may pick up on right away. But he is known for a few things, a few things that will be very recognizable here in a second. But real quickly, his title right now at Lucasfilm is Vice President and Executive Creative Director of Lucasfilm. Everything design wise that you see in Star Wars right now goes through him.
Okay.
And he's essentially grown up with Star Wars, but it was funny, his background. I read his first job basically where he got his career started. You want to know what? It was stop motion animation.
Well, you didn't even give me a chance to guess.
Fine, go ahead, guess
Was
what
it?
for.
Oh, I get to guess what it was for?
Yeah, and with how obscure you get, you might get it right.
Really?
You go obscure sometimes just as a joke, and I think you could actually get it right if you do. Now I'm making you think about it, which means you won't get it right.
What
It's got to be off the cuff.
Can you give me like an era? Like roughly, was it like 80s?
I think it was late 80s.
Late 80s? Stop
Yeah, mid
motion
80s.
animation?
Yeah. Just
I
keep
don't know.
thinking. Pee-wee
The
Playhouse.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yes.
Dude, I was just watching the last Pee-wee movie 2 nights ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to ask any more questions. I'm just going to ask, but I am wondering why. Um,
Dude, I love Pee-wee.
that's hilarious. I don't think I've seen more than like a few minutes of it. Didn't really do it for me. But that's where you got to start. And he did a bunch of things after that.
Didn't really do it for me.
Didn't do it for me.
What did you
sorry.
want it to do for you? Do you want to be
I don't know.
wowed by
I
it?
needed to have a purple dinosaur and it didn't. So I was disappointed. Kidding.
Go on. Okay, so he worked on that. That's so cool.
But he was eventually hired into Star Wars. Actually, let's get before that. Before that, he also got involved doing a lot of work for the movie. My wife really loves this movie, Death Becomes Her, Forrest Gump, and stuff like that. But then, and he did all that during the day, like that was his job, and that was while he was working at ILM. And then at night, he would do his own work. He would build his own portfolio. And one
Cool.
of the things that he did was he studied Ralph's paintings. He learned his style and he combined it with his own style. And one of the things he liked to do was combining technology with real life creatures.
Interesting.
And so it was a really experimental style that he tried. But again, this is like at night. So he didn't do anything but his day job, build his own personal portfolio, and then go to sleep and do it all over again. And that portfolio, though, that he did is what he eventually submitted to ILM and to George to work on Star Wars when he heard that that was coming around. And that portfolio, that mixture of technology and real life, was exactly why George hired him. And it
That
wasn't
landed him
very
the gig?
Star Warsy. Yeah, it wasn't very Star Warsy though. Like that's not design that we would have seen originally in that, but that was what George was wanting to go for, was something that was a bit more technologically based, and but still grounded in reality. So it matched perfectly with what he was looking for. And the way that George, I think, said it was that he was hired specifically to take Star Wars to the next level in his mind and kind of go
So
beyond
cool.
what Ralph McQuarrie started with. One of his major first contributions, you want to know what it was?
By the way, no pressure if George Lucas says that about you or to you.
Oh yeah, none at all. Yeah, welcome to. I mean, and
Wow.
it was not easy, as I'll share more about in a second.
Okay.
He did not make it easy on him. You know, it wasn't like, hey, you got the job. Anything you do now is good and gold. Like he apparently like would divide up. Well, I'll get to it. He had in his first year what he called the wall of shame, and it was just chock full of
No.
all these failed drawings that George would look at and be like, okay, I like that piece, but try again. And he was just like, okay, and he just put it on the wall.
I
He
got the impression that he was actually probably really hard to work with and for.
I think he just had a high bar. I don't know
I
if he
think
was difficult to work with. I think he just had a high bar.
I think that's right. It probably felt difficult at times, but I think
Yeah,
he had a very high standard for what he wanted to put out into the world.
but
Respect
but,
that.
but he was a. I don't get the sense like he raised his voice or disrespectful or anything like
No.
this is crap. Try again, or like he just he had a high bar. That was it.
Yeah.
Um, but what are a couple other things that I want to say? So no. So my question, what was one of his first contributions though to Star Wars?
I have no idea. Did he work on Phantom Menace? Was that his first thing?
Phantom Menace is where he got started, and that was he was a concept artist there, and he worked his way all the way up to what he's doing now, which is co-producing pretty much every one of the animated or not animated, but Star
Live
Wars
action?
series. The live action Disney Plus series, including Obi-Wan recently, where he contributed to the Third Sister's lightsaber and Darth
Cool.
Vader's the back the tank scenes specifically.
Oh, cool. Did he
But
make the
no, it was
pod
his first
racers
one.
or something?
He did, but that wasn't his first. I'll talk
Uh,
about that in a second.
did he create Jar Jar?
No. Getting a little warmer though.
Like costume design? Like was it a
The the
character?
the battle droids.
Cool. Okay.
And just like as you kind of walk through the process of how he created the battle droids is really interesting. And one of the other parts was then the Geonosians. And I think we've talked about this.
Mhm.
They're made to look like the battle droids
Yeah.
because they're the ones that create them, so they kind of created them out of their own likeness, and so the
Yeah.
Geonosians kind of have a similar head shape to them as well.
That was something I never picked up on, I think, until you told me. Like
Yeah, oh yeah,
within
yeah.
like the last few years.
Yeah, I actually forgot about it until I was watching this thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, look at that." Oh, I
Yeah.
knew that already. um but yeah, that was one of his first ones. Uh he would do 3 to 5 sketches a day, which roughly came out to about 25 a week while he was working on the prequel trilogy.
Hmm.
And he did that for I think years. At least the first year, like just constantly churning out different designs, and it is everything from the battle droid to the Geonosians, like I mentioned, to Darth Maul's speeder, to Naboo and all the ships on it, the starship, the Nubian, right, the droidekas, the and the pod racers. How many drawings do you think it took for him to get the pod racers?
Like 100?
283.
What?
It took a lot of drawings.
If you made a coffee table book of that, I would sit down and I would look at all 283 pages.
Well,
'Cause
I
they're
have
probably
a couple of coffee books that he's contributed to.
Oh, I bet
The
they're great.
the art of Rise of Skywalker
Oh,
and
yeah.
Last Jedi and Mandalorian,
Cool.
all contributed by him. But no, so I mean, here's the one thing I did want to read. By the way, I got this from a video that he did at, I want to say 2019 Star Wars Celebration,
Okay.
right before the pandemic. There's a great movie that he did to kind of talk through his journey. But he shared his 5 design rules. I want to share these with you and get your thoughts. When he was creating all these things, these were the rules that he tried to follow. One was a strong silhouette.
Yes, we've talked about that before.
Something that's recognizable. Yep. So you can thank him for that. Like that was his design rule. And then he had something called the 3-second rule.
What's that?
Basically, and this came directly from George. He said, you're not going to be in the room to explain this to anybody. So they need to be able in 3 seconds to understand how it functions, what its purpose is, what direction it travels, everything that you need to know about it. It needs to be something that they can get to in 3 seconds and understand. Yeah, I see what that is. That's a jet that thing flies, or whatever it is.
Interesting.
So I think that works. I think that's one of the reasons why you end up liking so much out of the designs, is just like, that works for you. You don't have to see more of it. You get it pretty quickly.
Which I feel like that's also really important when you're telling like science fiction-y space opera stories, because it can be disorienting if you don't get it.
Yeah.
But I've never, that's such a good point. Like even when we were younger watching the prequels, I was never like, I don't know what that is. What is that thing? I don't get it.
Right.
It all just worked.
You knew what it was. Yeah. It was a tank. You see it.
Yeah.
It looks weird, but it's a tank. I get it.
I get it.
That's a starship. And that's partly because he's stealing from real life things. Like he showed a picture of like the Naboo, the J-type, the Nubian starship. He showed a picture of that next to the thing he took it from. You're like, that's almost identical. It's just chrome.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was one of those stealth fighters.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's all grounded in reality. It's just
pretty cool,
mixed with something different, mixed with something that is a little bit more Star Warsy, or isn't, because that's a question that nobody can answer.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, all great stuff. But I wanted to leave you with this one for Doug, because he's done so much when you think about what he's contributed to Star Wars. One of the things I wrote down for Last Jedi was that he's the one who painted Luke Skywalker's X-wing at the depths of the water on Octu. Like just little stuff like that you take for granted. Like someone came up with that idea, and it wasn't always Rian Johnson. It was somebody else behind the scenes. In this case, Doug Chiang.
Very cool.
But no, this line I thought was great from him. Ralph, speaking of Ralph McQuarrie, Ralph set the bar, and we've been trying to meet it ever since. So he's very humble in the way that he thinks about his work, and it's some of the most iconic work. If you really stop and think about it, just as iconic as Ralph's, borrowing from obviously a lot of his ideas, taking inspiration from a lot of his ideas, but then just building on it or taking a slightly different approach.
And I hope that somebody continues to build upon that someday. But that's just such a cool progression.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All of the modern Star Wars designs have come from this person, either directly or indirectly from his shop.
Yeah.
Through his approval.
Interesting.
Even things all the way down to Galaxy's Edge and the Galactic Star Cruiser. Rest in peace.
Rip.
I'm done.
I pulled up Doug Chiang's Wikipedia page. Where did he grow up?
He was born in Taiwan. He grew up in Michigan.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I saw that.
Love Taiwan, and Michigan is my third favorite state in the U.S.
Pennsylvania. What comes after that? California.
Fourth favorite state.
Pennsylvania is. You just decided to add it.
Well, no, it's Pennsylvania,
New York,
California. No, I don't. New York's stupid. I'm just kidding. Pennsylvania.
Don't tell John that.
California, Alaska, and then Michigan.
Wow. Okay.
And then I don't even care about the rest.
They're all just, I don't think you've been to a lot of the ones in the middle.
I have not. I have flown over.
Yeah. That's not been to.
But I haven't been to Michigan. It's my 4th favorite state. If I actually go.
Is it just because I'm from there? Because there's a lot of other reasons to either like it or not like it. I'll tell you that.
Well,
I
so
love it, but
you're the number one reason.
but it's still only enough reason to make it 4th on the list.
But also one of my favorite musicians is from there.
That's true.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taproot.
Are they from there?
They are from there.
I like learning about
your favorite. I just had fun with that.
I like learning about Yoopers and cider mills and Show Me Where You Live on the Hand, all that stuff.
There's some good stuff, and you're missing even a couple other important things like the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Not the Detroit Lions, even though this year they're good.
They're good. I just learned that there's a band called Michigander, and I was like, oh, I have to listen to this band. And they're actually really good. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Now I can enjoy this band and revel in the fact that they're from Michigan.
And revel in the fact that you still don't have a bad thing to say about Michigan.
Not a single bad thing.
You miss the Great Lakes.
Yeah, they are pretty great.
They are actually.
Yeah, no.
If you think about how big of a body of water is, my dad told me a stat the other day about them. Anyway, let's get back to Star Wars.
Yeah, okay.
We have 2 more people to get through, and George still. So let's.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll go quick.
Okay.
Cavan Scott.
Cavan.
The Cavan Scott, who we've had the pleasure of meeting.
He is a pleasure.
He is a pleasure. He's a really nice dude. He's a funny guy. Very down to earth.
For all the tragedies he causes, he's a nice guy.
For all the heartbreak he causes, yeah. All right, so Cavan Scott. This is his 2nd career.
Okay.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. There seems to be a theme though with all these.
It seems to be a theme. And especially in like the later Star Wars era. Like think about if you're a High Republic fan, DJO, Daniel Jose Older, was an EMT.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Soule was an attorney.
Right.
And I have to sneeze again.
Claudia Gray, what was she?
Oh, I don't know.
She's just always been an author. I bet she was something else, but
I bet, yeah, I could see her being like a teacher or something. George Mann was a professional motorcycle driver.
You made that up.
How do you know? You don't know that.
I know when you make things up now. We're 80 episodes in, man.
Who else? Who am I missing?
Oh, we're missing people. But yeah. But again, Cavan Scott, what about him?
So, all right. So he goes off to university and he starts working as like an editor. And he is working.
Did you do that because isn't he British?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
do the university thing? You went to university?
Well, instead of using the definite article, the. No, I always say that somebody is in hospital or goes to university. I think I did that because he's British. Yeah, so he went to the college, and so he ended up working as an editor.
You were trying a Southern accent. I know that was great.
Yeah,
you like gave up. Nope, not doing it anymore.
But so here's how he gets into writing. So he was. Do you know what his first like real hardcore fandom was?
Dungeons and Dragons?
Doctor Who.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of those.
There's a lot
out there.
There's a lot of fans. There's a lot of doctors. There's a lot of seasons. I forget what it's been on since 1912 or something. And I don't know. But you and I have never watched it, so we have no idea what people are talking about. Have you watched it?
I've watched like an episode and I was so lost.
And so you said, forget this, never watching it again, writing it off.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not what Cavan did. Cavan got into it, and Cavan got into writing fan fiction and reading Doctor Who fan fiction. And that sparked something, I guess. And eventually him and one of his friends were writing something, and they decided to pitch it to somebody. They decided to pitch it to one of these places that does like audio dramas, where they record like a theater of the mind thing where people act out a story, whatever. And I guess they used to play stuff like this on the BBC. You can get stuff like this in the Audible store. But it got picked up. They're like, yeah, this is a cool story idea. And they bought it. And for the next almost 20 years, I think, he's doing writing for comic books, for different franchises as a side hustle. And he's doing stuff like he was working for BBC, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, which if you ever go to the UK and you turn on TV, like the first 5 channels you hit will be all BBC channels. And he was working for BBC One. There's a TV show called Country File where they follow like a British farmer around. I know, electrifying. And he suggested that they turn Country File into a magazine. And apparently that magazine is still running to this day. Apparently the BBC came to him and said, hey, Cavan. They probably said, oi, Cav. And
don't do that when I'm taking a drink.
And he said, you what? And then they said, Tuesday, innit? And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If you're not watching,
any British listeners we just had either turn this off or and won't be back.
All right. Can I change
or they're crossing the ocean right now to get you
to can I change it to be self-deprecating, to be a little self-deprecating? I'll make it Randy.
There you go.
So Randy comes in and says, hey, Cavan.
Stop. Just stop. You can't do a Southern accent.
I always thought my Southern accent was good.
No, that was something else.
Wait, you do it then. You do a Southern accent, and I'll be Cavan.
Hey, Randy. Does that work?
Yeah. Keep going. I'll be Cavan.
I don't know what you were trying to say. Hey, Cavan. I don't know. Let's just keep going. Way past your bedtime, and I can tell now.
Okay. So they came to him and they said, which TV shows or stuff that we're doing for the BBC would make a good magazine? And he said, I think Country File would make a good magazine. It's all about rural life in Britain. And that magazine's been running for like 10 years. He co-wrote a book about it. And he apparently is a regular commentator about like farm life in the UK, rural affairs.
Still?
Yes.
That's cool.
And I found an interview with him, and the interviewer was like, obvious question here. Did you grow up on a farm? Were you ever a farmer? And he said, nope. Just kind of appreciate it. Appreciate that way of life. Anyway, his Star Wars fandom origin story is 2 things. In the 1970s, so he was born in 73, so he's a little kid when A New Hope comes out. His grandmother got him an Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure, and he didn't know what it was. She got him a toy. He hadn't seen the movie yet.
Okay.
But he said he got fully immersed into it because it was unavoidable at the time. I think anybody who was alive then probably remembers Star Wars kind of being a big thing. He got into Star Wars comic books first.
Okay.
That's where he like really geeked out and was like, wow, this is like a really cool universe. Love the stories, the characters, the themes. And back then apparently it was Marvel too. So Marvel's doing another Star Wars run. I think Star Wars and Marvel parted ways for a while. I remember when I was a kid, I was buying Star Wars Dark Horse comic books.
Yeah.
But must be so cool for him because he breaks into the comic book world and I'm now on our quick shots covering Phase 3 of Star Wars: The High Republic, which is published by Marvel, which he's doing the writing for, and he's one of the people who's gotten to design the whole High Republic story, along with some of the other people we mentioned. A bunch of second career people deciding a whole phase of the Star Wars story. One of the things that will always stick with me is when we got to meet him, he seemed like such a lovely guy, but he's an absolute butcher with his characters and an absolute heartbreaker and a destroyer of dreams. And it's
whose
just
dreams though. He made Marchion Rose come to fruition.
He did. And now he's writing for.
It's just what's the line? Oh, crud. Just from a certain point of view.
Yeah, from a certain point of view, and that was one of his first things that he did with Star Wars. He did one of the from a certain point of views. I think maybe for A New Hope, but like one of the first like written pieces of fiction that he did. He's gone on to write other Star Wars books, but before that, I think it was mostly comic books. But now he's writing for Young Jedi Adventures, and we had a group chat going of like, that's a kid show. Like, what is he going to do to these poor kids when he starts killing off the heroes and the villains start winning? But I think there's plenty more Star Wars to come from Cavan, and I'm just a huge fan of his storytelling style, and I'm a huge fan of him as a person because he's just absolutely lovely to his fans. So
I think the thing that is important to point out to what with you picking Cavan Scott and me picking Doug, for example, is like these are kind of the unsung heroes a bit. These are the ones that don't come to the forefront of your mind when you think Star Wars. You think George Lucas. You think now, J.J. Abrams or, Kathleen Kennedy even. But you don't really think about all these other people that are behind the scenes. And Cavan Scott's, he's one of my honorable mentions that I wrote down. Just he's instrumental now to the storytelling that's happening in the High Republic. And so many others are, like Charles Soule, like you said. And this is where Chris would interject here and just say, like, hey, there's a richness of storytelling that's happening on the comic side of Star Wars. And to completely cut it out or dismiss it or something like that is it's
a big miss.
It's a miss. I understand that everybody, we can't all consume all.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, it was a little burp. I'm having my ginger beer. Leave me alone. But what was I saying?
The people who are critical to the story and the stuff that we enjoy.
No. I think it's less.
No, I think that was the point.
Was it? I don't think it was. I think I was saying that there's a lot of stories out there. Like you can't consume all of it. You can't read every single book. You can't read every single comic. I get that, and that's very true. Like I'm struggling to keep up, and frankly haven't. So, but there's still a lot to it, and Cavan Scott's a huge contributor to that. And his style is just so unique, right? It is
totally.
It is heartbreaking. I don't think one of my kids is very gets very sensitive when certain things happen in stories, and I try to explain. Well, yeah, but I try to explain to her like, hey, sometimes for it to have a happy ending, it's got to have a sad moment, right?
There's got to be a conflict. There's got to be hardship. There's got to be.
And I'm trying to just like help her understand that. And Cavan Scott's like, how deep can we go with this?
Yes, right.
Before we make it happy again. And by the way, it's not my job to make it happy. That's your job. I'm going to see how deep I can go and then how much you can recover it. But it's great stuff.
It's such good stuff. And I think you're right. I think you can pick up a Cavan Scott comic book and not read the name on the front and know whose story you're reading.
Yes.
But yeah, I sent a gift to you guys of a guy getting punched in the stomach recently and said Cavan Scott to his readers, because the first issue of Phase 3 of Marvel Star Wars: The High Republic was a gut punch. Yeah. And I hope it ends well. I think it will.
But the thing is, in the comic book, like you have to deliver gut punches like that so that people keep coming back to the next issue. They gotta want to know what happens next.
That's fair. So I want to know.
Perfect for that industry.
He really is. So much love to you, Cavan. Thank you for all you do.
Well, my last one is the one to know. Since he started off with Favreau, like we're bookending this with Favroni, Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
And for sake of time, we'll have to cover all these other great contributors another time. But I'll just say quickly a few things about Filoni. So he, first of all, he got his start with Star Wars in 2005. Really came on to help build the animation studio, which eventually gave us the Clone Wars. But I guess I don't really need to go through his resume. Everybody pretty much knows by now. We got Ahsoka, the series, just recently. He's been part of Mandalorian. He's done Rebels, which is kind of touted as one of the best additions to Star Wars in the modern era. He's taken new characters, whether they be all the Rebels characters basically, and made them interesting and created some great compelling character arcs and stuff. But the other thing that I think gets I think appreciated, but I think you don't think of it as much. Like you think of the new characters like Ahsoka. He did a lot with the existing characters too, a ton.
That's true. That's
Anakin,
true.
Maul, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Palpatine. Like he took these characters that we already knew and added some dimensions to them that were unique and complex and really detailed and thorough to the point where like I think for a lot of people, if it weren't for Filoni, they still wouldn't have a good feeling towards the prequels.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I think that's a fair take. Yeah.
And he worked with George Lucas. Like, so he embraced everything and he loved everything. But like, there was some joke about like, yeah, how he's creating this TV show for kids and talking about trade disputes.
Yeah.
And
I think from what I've heard, George Lucas kind of points at Filoni and says, this is one of the guys that gets it, really gets what the story's about at its core, the characters, etc. So
and so do the fans. They do the same. But these are the same fans in many cases that said that they didn't like the prequels. And he went to the same corners and made it political.
Yeah.
But I think the difference was, and he talks about this it was just a little clip that I saw, but he said one of the biggest things for him is just storytelling. Like, where's the quote? I wrote it down. He's not, this is it. He's not worried about what's canon and what isn't. And he focuses on just the importance of telling a great story and making sure great creatives come in and have the space to tell the story in this galaxy. Let's tell a story in this galaxy or their story. That. Like he's not lost on just the need for just good storytelling. And I think all these people that we talked about, Cavan Scott, even Charles Soule, even just Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, they all kind of came in and told their story in this galaxy, made it their own. Filoni's just done the exact same. Yeah. His line about like canon and not being too worried about canon, I think there's a couple people who are like, yeah, we noticed when he's not worrying about canon too much. But he does care quite a bit. He's just not like reading every single comic and making sure that it follows those stories. I think people will point to the whole Caleb Doom storyline and Kanan storyline and say, oh, they're, he kind of went away from that in Bad Batch, whatever. Yeah. But he is just about telling a great story. That's what he's all about.
I love that. That's the type of stuff that's going to be, it's going to continue to give us good characters and all that great stuff. But so you left out something really important about Dave Filoni.
I mean, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't going to give a whole background of like his resume. I was just going into like,
that's worth mentioning.
The Pennsylvania piece. How about this piece? I got one for you to top that.
Yeah.
Not at the same time. She's, did you know that Ming-Na Wen is 60?
I think I did know that because somebody tweeted about her or something, but I otherwise wouldn't have known.
It's crazy to me. I still don't see it most days. But yeah, she and Filoni have a connection. They didn't go at the same time, but they went to the same high school.
Get out.
Mm-hmm. And
what?
The outskirts of Pittsburgh was a high school that two people involved in Star Wars went to.
That's so cool.
Who'd have known? yeah, there. I got your connection in.
Wow, very cool.
Was there anything else I missed on Filoni that you want to make sure I
No,
captured?
I think that is really important. I think his cool hats and his wolf t-shirts are also really important to mention, but we can save that for another conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes again, and I think I've covered most of the things. There's apparently he's the one who did the drawing of the Mandalorian and the child, the when he's reaching out from the bassinet with his finger, just like
No
the
way.
ET thing. He did the
Iconic.
first drawing of that, right?
Iconic.
And it's become this iconic scene now.
So cool.
He did the first drawing of that.
You very briefly mentioned Rian Johnson, and I remember reading an interview with Filoni where he said that he'd done all this animation and he wanted to get into live action, and he knew he might have a shot to do live action, but he didn't confidently know how to step in there and direct a live action sequence, a live action scene, a whole episode of a show, whatever. And apparently Rian Johnson invited him to set, and they spent like hours together. And Rian Johnson was just imparting his wisdom and basically taking him to film school on set.
That doesn't surprise me. Rian Johnson is
he's a gem.
He is, and it was last year around this time, wasn't it, that he did the what's that called, the charity event that we did?
Yes,
that we were part of. He was on that.
Yeah,
busy guy doing all the stuff he's doing now with Knives Out and that whole thing, the deal he's got with Netflix, and took some time out of his day to keep talking Star Wars with us. Like, that was cool.
Not with us directly.
Not with us. But with Star Wars fans is what I meant.
Alden Diaz, that lovely guy.
Yes, exactly. What was that? The Podathon.
Yep. Raise some money for Make-A-Wish Foundation, I believe. So good guy too.
Money. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say other than I think behind Lucas, one of the most respected creators is Dave Filoni now in this universe. It pretty much has kind of become his universe in its own, in his own way.
He's sort of the heir in some ways.
In fans' eyes, I think. I mean, he's still got like really important people like Kathleen Kennedy and Pablo Hidalgo and people that are behind the scenes keeping everything together. But I think that the who has the most trust from fans, it's Filoni. I mean, I asked in our group chat the other day, hey, what did the fans think of Ahsoka? Because I had a hard time putting my finger on it. Someone was asking me. I was like, I think they liked it, right? They liked it, right? And I had to ask the group because like I couldn't trust that I heard that I didn't hear anything negative about it.
I think they really did.
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think we're safe.
We're safe for once. I'm like, there's no like complaining about this one. What the heck happened?
Safe from the fandom menace for once. Yeah.
For this one time at least. No, but we've gone through 4 of them. There's so many more to thank, but hopefully this has been fun to listen and talk about some of the makers that we've really enjoyed behind the scenes in Star Wars. So thank you, makers.
Thank you, makers, and thank you, listeners. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and thank you again to my lovely bro host. Always a pleasure chatting Star Wars with you, bro.
It is.
But thank you guys for listening. We always appreciate you spending some time with us because there's a million different Star Wars podcasts, and you can pick any of them. And I love listening to a bunch of them. But the fact that you picked ours warms our hearts. And again, it was just Life Day, and Thanksgiving's coming up here in the States, and so we are, I think, feeling a little bit extra in the grateful spirit. And you again, bro, happy birthday. Can't wait to give you your R2D2 popcorn maker. And
thank you for that again.
Yeah, and do a little bit of celebrating. But where can people find us if they want to find us?
If they
your
really
house, my house,
they could. Preferably not.
Okay. What about like
they can email us.
Social media? Okay.
That's good. How about you can email us, thestarbrospodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the Star Bros Podcast, right?
At Star Bros Podcast on Twitter, X, whatever you call it.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And that's pretty much it, because I don't think we go on to Facebook anymore.
not so much.
Yeah, we just keep it to X.
The Braxium YouTube channel.
The Braxium YouTube channel. Yes.
Yep. You can find our
Some of
episodes.
you are
You
watching
might
this
even
right
be
now.
watching this on the Braxium YouTube channel. We forgot to mention it. So sorry
Yeah,
about that. It's late. We're tired.
it is.
Hopefully you're not.
I
Hopefully you're
think that's
having a
where we
great
should
day.
end it.
Yeah, let's call it right there.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait, that's not how we do
Nope.
it. No, thank you, listeners. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good life day and you enjoyed the
Yeah.
season. If you don't
Yeah.
celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you find some time to be grateful anyway for whatever
Yeah.
it is that you need to be grateful for.
Hey, that's a nice message.
It
On that
is.
note, on that
We
note,
should wrap it up there.
it's a wrap.
Is that your
I don't want
bedtime voice?
I don't want to wake anybody up. It's a
Please
wrap.
don't. My kids are sleeping.